Hi guys, how's it going? Actually doing something mechanical today. Went to move the camper the other day and it wouldn't move, the clutch. It's a hydraulic clutch, so a little bit of diagnosing. I tried bleeding it, wouldn't bleed. Master cylinder for the clutch is gone, so because of the age of the vehicle, I'm going to change the clutch master cylinder and the slave cylinder, and then I know they're both good, and the lines in between are both good. So right now I'm in the workshop at Mom's house, and I'm about to bench bleed the master cylinder. Now normally I wouldn't use a line this big. I would use a smaller line, but this is the only fitting I had that would fit, so it's still going to do the job. Now the reason you bench bleed is you want to get all the air out of the cylinder here, and the best way to do that is to have it on the bench, and you're going to put fluid in it, and you're going to pump it, and by pumping it through, you're going to see the clear fluid coming up here, and then it'll go right back into the reservoir. So you'll be able to see when the air is out. So let's get to it. Okay, first thing I've got to do is put some brake fluid in. So this is a new bottle about a week ago. I don't like using any brake fluid that's too old because it does absorb water, absorbs moisture. So the first thing I'm going to do is fill that up fairly high. Now I'm up well above the max line, well, probably halfway between the max line and the full, and I don't know if you can see that, but the level is actually going down. So what's happening is it's draining through the port and into the cylinder here, into the bore. And if I wait long enough, I would likely actually see it in the tubing here. See if I can get you a slightly different angle. And when you're doing this, you want to make sure you don't let the master cylinder go dry. So you always want to make sure you watch the level. Now, as you can see, it's down near the max, just below in fact, and I've already got fluid coming up in the line. But that doesn't mean that there's no air in here. There could still be a couple of little bubbles. The very first thing I'll do, because the bubbles might adhere to the edges, so what I'll do is I'll take a small screwdriver. Usually I like to use the smaller ones because I don't want to hit it too hard, and I'll just give it a few taps. I'm just trying to make sure the bubbles are free. And then after that I will get to bleeding it. Now sometimes in this vehicle it has a rod attached to it already, but in many cases you don't. So what you have to do is use a screwdriver through the boot and into the piston. But this one, because it has the rod, I don't have to do that. And I'm basically going to push just like I was pushing the clutch, and I'm watching for bubbles. As I release, it's going to go down. Like, watch closely, see if you see any bubbles. There you go. So you're watching. That's what you're trying to eliminate, is those bubbles. just going to keep doing that. And part of the problem is being a big hose is if I let it go back too fast, it's going to draw air back. So I think what's happening is I'm getting air because of the size of the line. So I'll just add a little more brake fluid into the reservoir. That's working much better now. You notice you're not seeing any bubbles in this line anymore. That's what you're looking for. There's no more air in this master cylinder. Oh, there was one bubble. Okay, now I'm pretty confident that that's done. Now what I want to do is I'm going to leave this line on, and I'll pull it out of the reservoir. I'm going to pull it out of the reservoir here, but keep it tipped up, and that way I can put the lid back on the reservoir, but I'm going to make sure that this stays so it doesn't start draining the fluid out. But before I take it out, I'm going to find something I can use as a plug. Now you can use screws. Something I like to use but I don't see any here is golf tees. They work really well for vacuum line plugs. And see what I have, and there are none. So I'm going to need a bolt or a screw. This will work. I still have a little bit of brake fluid on this cloth, so I'll clean the end of it just to make sure it's clean. And I will remove this line, keep it up, and I'll put this in, which will seal that line. And as I mentioned, put the lid on. But I also want to make sure I keep this above and not have it drop down, so the air in this tube would travel up into the reservoir. So I'm going to use this same wire that I used to tie this on, and I'll just tie it to the master cylinder or to the reservoir, and that'll hold until I get outside and go to put it on. So we'll see you outside, and we'll continue on. Hi guys, glad you could join me. Okay, we're getting ready to change the clutch master cylinder now. Now, when you're starting on this, you want to make sure you loosen everything first, and especially the line, because if you loosen the master cylinder from the firewall, although they call them bulkheads now because people actually believe they would be protected from fire, so they changed the name so they wouldn't get sued, but it's a firewall. You want to at least loosen the line, and in this case, because this is not just a rod, that actuates this one. It's actually a rod with a clevis on it. The clevis unhooks underneath the dash, so I'm going to actually do that first so it's free. So I'll show you what I'm doing. It's going to be a little bit awkward maybe. Hopefully not too bad. Okay, where I'm working is right here. Yeah, that worked, didn't it? Okay, let's try that again. Without my big fat balonies, right here is where the clevis connects. This pin, you can see the pin here. This pin here is actually the pin that the clevis is on. And you'll see there's a little ring, or a little snap ring, and that rod just pushes through the clevis. So first thing I'm going to do is grab that little clip and pull it off. That's all it is a basic little hair clip. Now this rod that attaches the clevis to the clutch pedal pushes out and pulls out. Simple as that. Now that rod is free and clear of the pedal. Okay. Here we are. Here's the clutch slave cylinder right here. This unit here. There's the line. And then there's a bolt here, or a nut on the stud, and there's another one down there. I don't know if you can see it or not, but you can just barely see it. Now, the first thing I want to do is loosen this line, because right now this is firmly attached to the firewall, and it gives me an easier chance of breaking that loose without having trouble. If the master cylinder was loose, you would have a problem because you're trying to fight holding the master cylinder and loosening the line. Now normally I use a flared nut wrench, which is like a box end wrench with a small cutout to go around the line, but I didn't bring them with me, and I'm at Mom's old house here, so move that wire out of the way. And so I'm going to have to use an open end wrench. Now these, it doesn't look too corroded, but if they're corroded you might want to spray it with some penetrant or something. And when you pop it loose, you want to do it fairly fast. So you want to get it on in a way, an area where you can kind of give it a quick tap and allow the inertia to hold the line while the fitting pops loose. So I'm going to do that. Okay, now that's loose, as you can see. I'm just going to wiggle it back and forth a bit to make sure that the threads aren't going to bunch up on me. Okay, but I'm not going to take that line out completely. Next, I'm going to have to take those two nuts off. They're going to be a little bit different because it's not an easy place to get at with the camera here. Okay, same thing here. When you're trying to get it loose, try and give it a quick snap. And this truck is amazing because I have not had a problem with any fasteners. Now I don't have a lot of room to swing, so and when you have big fat hands working on a small vehicle or a small area, be interesting. Okay, there we go. This one, let's see if I can get you on there. This one I'm going to have to use an extension because I can't get at it otherwise. You can see the nut, you can see the socket. Okay, I've taken the ratchet off, but I still have the extension and socket on there, so I can use my fingers to rotate the nut from where it's a little easier to get. But once again, big fat fingers don't help. Okay, the nut came off in the socket, which is perfect. Okay, now here's the reason I left that line on. There's no brake fluid leaking. So, I can minimize how much I actually lose putting the other master cylinder in. So the other master cylinder is here, ready to go. So I'll take this line and remove it. And it's loose. There's just enough friction I have to use the wrench on it. And as the brake fluid starts leaking out around the fitting, it'll actually work like a lubricant. Okay, now here it's out, but I actually also know that very little fluid is coming out of it, so. Next step is going to be to take this one out, put the new one in. Okay, I pull the line out. Pull the cylinder out. Before I put it on, I don't have a lot of time to do it. I'll do it someday. You can see the wrinkled paint here, and this is from brake fluid leaking. This is what brake fluid does to automotive paint. That's why you want to make sure you never spill any. It just softens it right up. But someday I'll be detailing under here, and I'll have to take this out and pressure wash it and scuff it down and give it a shot of paint. So next, let's get the other one put in. Okay, now I want to make sure this is turned and lined up to go onto the pedal. And get it started on the studs. Okay, now before I put any nuts on, I want to make sure that the clevis has hit on the pedal where I need it. Okay guys, ran out of battery. Anyway, I've got the master cylinder bolted down. I've tightened them both, tightened the line, and when you screw these lines back in, they should never be tight. You should be able to turn it in finger tight all the way. If you have to put a wrench on it right away, you're likely cross-threading it, so you never want to do that. So that's been done. I got fluid in it. And Nissan, because of the fact that that line goes up and across, you're going to get air pockets there. They're nice enough to put a unit right here that I can pre-bleed before it goes down to the slave, which is way down there. So first we're going to bleed the top.